Are you looking to take a real ride into the paranormal? Well, come on board to Night Dreams Talk Radio for the best in talk radio with Gary Anderson. Do you have a paranormal story that you want heard? You could be a guest on Night Dreams. Contact us at motorcycletalkbygary@gmail.com. For the very best in talk paranormal radio on UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, conspiracy, and more, listen to Night Dreams with Gary, Monday to Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. Pacific Time.
Hey, what can I say? This is Gary, and yeah, I hit the wrong button. What can I say? I'm getting old. I'm getting senile, as one of my young sons has told me. Hey, tonight, we got the paranormal lawyer on there, and hopefully, Michael, are you there?
I am here, Gary.
Well, then we are both here, which if we were somewhere else, we could have been in a portal.
Well, I am actually somewhere else, but I am just honored to be on your show, calling in from the North Cascades, high up near Mount Baker. So thanks for snagging me out of the woods today.
Well, hey, when do I get to be on your show sometime? No, anyway, yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, how has it been feeling to, well, be where you're at for the last couple of weeks? Have you been pretty relaxed and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's just wonderful up here. The weather is extreme in the mountains, by the way. I mean, it will be, 90 degrees when the sun is shining right on you. And a cloud comes over and drops the heaviest rainfall you've ever seen in your life. So you never know what's going to happen with the weather changing so quickly this time of year. But it is beautiful. The greenery. I'm staying at a gorgeous cabin with the back door that I look out of to see the valley there is looking straight at and up to Mount Baker.
Oh, wow.
Which is still covered with snow, of course, but the green mountains and hills around it are just breathtaking.
Well, how about wildlife? What have you been seeing up there so far?
Well, talk about wildlife. I'm taking care of a few animals here on the old ranch. So I have a beautiful Malamute female dog that I'm taking care of for the owners of this place. And they have 2 goats as well that I have to kind of make sure are fed every day. And 2 ducks, which I get to gather the eggs, by the way, and eat for breakfast, which are lovely, and 2 cats. And so this is kind of a little menagerie out here. But other than that, there has just, all the birds are flying around. There are hawks and eagles. There are chipmunks galore, of course, and those kinds of things. So far, I haven't run across any bear or coyotes. There are a lot of those in these neck of the woods as well.
Well, now if you want a bear, okay, what you want to do is put your food, right out in front of the porch and just let it sit there during the night. I guarantee you'll get either coyotes or you'll get bear or maybe even both.
Yeah, or maybe even a Sasquatch. You never know up here. There is a whole lot of sighting reports in the North Cascades out here in Skagit County, Whatcom County, regarding hominids and Bigfoot. So it is exciting to be here for sure.
Oh, yeah. Now, I got to ask you a question there, Mr. Paranormal Lawyer. What would you do if you were out there, feeding those goats, and all of a sudden you saw about an 8-foot creature, staring at you and saying, "Why aren't you feeding me?"
Yeah, 8-foot, glowing, typically red eyes, and shoulders the size of a truck. That would be quite a hair-raising experience. I would hope that I would have enough collected, space that I could go to where I would be able to just stand there and not give out the fear that typically most folks would do when they saw something like that. I have heard that these Bigfoot are psychic beings and or are able to at least sense your intentions. So I think that would be important. Obviously, I would say immediately in my mind, I am not armed. I do not have a weapon on me.
Well, I just, all I can say is when I ran across one, I did one thing that I think a lot of people would do, and they would just not admit it. I peed my pants. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I was that scared. But,
yeah.
you know.
And that is a fascinating story that you have about your encounter with your friend. Oh, my gosh. I don't know. When I hear you recount that story, I try to put myself in your shoes or your friend's shoes, and I think I would have done the exact same thing and probably wet myself profusely.
Well, I don't know. So, I mean, that's the whole thing. I have all these people, you know, want to be on the show that are, you know, Bigfoot hunters and all this stuff. But when you talk to them, you say, well, have you ever seen one? Well, no, but I read a lot. Well, you know, it's a big difference, you know, when you see one and you're reading about one or talking to other people, you know. It's just, it's so many people have different ideas what a Bigfoot is and what they would do. I mean, I know in my case, if it wanted to harm us, it would have. I think, honestly, looking back at it, if we wouldn't have took off running, I think we maybe would have been in a problem. I mean, I think getting away was the smartest thing we could have done. The dumbest thing would have been there to stand around and try to take pictures. And that's what a lot of people are saying. Oh, you had a camera. Why didn't you get pictures? Well, hey, brother and sister, you be in my shoes. And you tell me if you're going to take a picture. I only thought of one thing, getting back to the car and getting out of there. That's the only thought I had in my mind.
Yeah, and the fact that when you got to your car, there was either that Bigfoot or another Bigfoot waiting there for you.
Yeah.
So I believe shows that they were just so curious to find out what you were doing, a little bit more about you, but they didn't harm you for some reason. But I would have done the same thing. I would have skidded right out of there and set the gravel flying, that's for sure.
Well, I sure drugged my friend. I mean, he had one leg in the car. The other leg was being drugged on the ground, you know. I'm surprised he didn't get hurt. But I tell you, it threw a rock. And the bad part of the whole thing is that I had a Jeep. It was only maybe like 4 years old, you know, off-road Jeep. But I drove it really hard. And I didn't feel going up to the Canadian Rockies it would be comfortable enough. And plus, I didn't really, feel it was dependable. My wife, just like 2 weeks before that, bought a brand new Cavalier, and she was really happy. She paid cash for it, got it. She was, it was her first brand new car that she picked out on her own ever. And she let me take it. And that Bigfoot, as we were driving off, tossed a huge rock and put a good-sized dent in the fender. And, the first thing I do when I get home, and my wife is accusing me of, well, what did you run into? What did you do? I said, I ran into a Bigfoot. It threw a rock. Sure. What were you smoking? What were you drinking? What were you doing while you were gone?
Hadn't she ever seen Harry and the Hendersons?
Yeah, well, yeah, he would probably offer me money if he put a dent in there. This one didn't offer me any.
Well, that story reminds me of one of our UFO IT members, Lee Strauss, tells a really incredible Bigfoot story that maybe I could share with you again and your listeners.
Oh, go ahead.
He is our kind of like an intrepid mountain man, a member of the team, and he's also one of our cameramen. So he typically will haul his gear up to 10,000 feet sometimes, and just take nighttime footage of skywatches and capture UFOs streaking in and out of the atmosphere, and have it on tape. But when he to get there, he has to go through the raw forest and climb trails and old abandoned logging roads to get there. And he tells the story one day where he was walking along in midday, just going down a trail heading up one of the North Cascade mountains. And he gets this feeling, he says, that, he calls it the heebie-jeebies, where he feels this thing in his gut that something's amiss. He doesn't know what, but he gets very kind of on edge, and almost like butterflies, but more intense, he says. And he's keeping his senses open as he's walking down this trail. And all of a sudden, he says, off to the right of him, up the hill a ways, comes a giant basketball-sized boulder. It flies across the trail in front of him and knocks over like trees, 2 or 3 trees that are about 12 inches in diameter. These are no small saplings. And this, of course, is a large rock. It just destroys the trees on that left side of the trail. And he stops immediately and is freaked out and doesn't know what to do. But he has heard that he shouldn't panic in a situation like that. And he's trying to determine whether it was a rock fall, just coming down the side of a mountain or a hill, and it somehow got momentum enough to come across the flat areas that he was walking in. And he thought maybe he would just take it one step at a time and go a little further and just see if he can get it out of the area. When all of a sudden, from the same side of the path comes a giant softball-size rock. And it knocks a couple trees, on the left-hand side. Doesn't break them, of course, but it just makes a heck of a racket. And he decides at that point that he probably shouldn't go any further. He decides to give the impression in his mind that, okay, that's enough, I'm going to leave. Whatever's going on, you don't have to worry. And he turns around, leaves the area, and was never ran into a situation like that again. But he swears that these rocks came out of the middle of nowhere, out of the woods, and there was no hill or rock face that these things could have come from. So I can imagine being in the middle of the wilderness all by yourself. He did have a sidearm with him, but he was not in any position mentally or physically to use it at that point.
Well, I got something to say to you about a sidearm, okay? Years ago when I was a kid, my uncle went out. He used to go out hunting a lot, and he went out hunting for bear. And he, with a good-sized rifle, I'm not into rifles, so I don't know caliber it was, but he, shot a bear, and then he shot it again, and it kept coming, and I think he got like 2 or 3 shots in the bear, but the bear, didn't drop over dead, and it mauled him really bad where he was in the hospital. They didn't think at the start he was going to make it, and that's how bad he was mauled. And, if you're out there, and if you only have a sidearm, and you run into a Bigfoot, be it, maybe you figure, hey, I'll just shoot the Bigfoot, get evidence, here's a dead Bigfoot. You'll be crazy with a handgun to try to take one down. Because, like my uncle trying to take a bear down, which is not as big as a Bigfoot, it would scare me. And then, I remember Art Bell had a guy on it claimed